I hear it every day, downpipe and tune. How good is it actually though? So I'm sure like me, a lot of you guys would have seen online, especially TikTok, Instagram, etc., of people claiming about a B58 with a downpipe and tune being able to race and beat supercars. Is that true? Just how good are the B58s with a downpipe and a tune? Well, stick around because in today's video, we're going to be talking about it. I'm going to be showing you guys what I've done to my car to make this horsepower, which it's at, and trust me, it's fast. And we're going to be talking about why the B58 in the M140i's, 340i's, 240i's are literally a cheat code to easy horsepower. So without any further ado, let's get into the video. So first things first, let's open up the engine bay and let's have a look at what has actually been done to my M240i. Let's turn this thing off so you guys can actually hear me. So here we have it. Some might say the legendary B58. And this engine, I give it. It may not look like much, still looks like a turboed inline 6 3-litre. However, it is a basic cheat code to horsepower. Now just down there is where your turbo is and also your downpipe. Now a downpipe, if you're American, I'm guessing is a catless version or a decat if you're from the UK. However, if you've never seen a catalytic converter on a B58 before, these things from the factory are absolutely huge and they're a massive restriction. Now I will say one thing. This car still has somewhat of a cat. It runs a sports cat, and the reason I chose this is to eliminate the drone, and also I didn't want the raspy sound that a lot of B58s come with. Given they do sound good, but I was after more of a calmer and more refined tone than a super raspy one. Now I'll put a clip on screen now of a B58 in an M140i with a catless downpipe or a decat from the UK, and also a double res delete. Let me know your thoughts of what that sounds like. It's pretty hard to see, but there you can see my heat shield sports cat. And for anyone wondering, that is a 200 cell sports cat. But now it's time to actually get into some power figures and just show you guys how unreal this engine is out of the box. This car is the F22 M240i, and this comes out of the box with about 335 horsepower. If you combine it with this device, which is an MHD adapter, combined with your downpipe, it is a cheat code to easy horsepower. Now, there are a few tuning softwares people use. They can get it professionally tuned on a dyno and do some road runs, like on a road like this, for example, or they can go for an off-the-shelf map, like with this MHD adapter. And also there's other ones like boot mods, etc. The list goes on. In my case, though, I've used MHD for a long time. I've used it on the M2, I've used it on the M235i, and I've also tuned this B58 in my M240i with it. Now we'll talk about some figures. So MHD claim that this car can make about 420 horsepower completely out the box. That is just with a tune and zero engine modifications at all. I think that is a little bit optimistic. However, if you do combine that on a stage 1 map with a downpipe, I can see those numbers being obtainable. And they more than likely are, because my mate had a 2017 M140i. He tuned it on a stage 1 with a high flow downpipe, which was a sports cat. He could still pass MOTs and everything, and he was beating my stage 2 N55 on a roll. Now, MHD also claim up to 470 horsepower with a downpipe and no GPF, a gasoline particle filter. Again, I think this is slightly unrealistic and a little bit optimistic in the figures that they are obtaining. I can see that being done with a B58 TU high pressure fuel pump. And while we are talking about high pressure fuel pumps, they say a stage 2 tune with the high pressure fuel pump and a downpipe, of course, can get you to around the 500 horsepower mark, which is just insane for one of these cars. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but apparently from my research, the stock turbo on these cars kind of gives up and is at its maximum around 470 horsepower. And by the way, we're talking flywheel horsepower. Obviously, wheel horsepower is significantly lower because of drivetrain losses, etc. And if you are curious, I still have the OEM or the original high pressure fuel pump on this car. Definitely looking at getting the B58 TU pump installed soon. So we've talked about power figures, and we've also talked about the modifications that are needed to obtain those certain power levels. And now I think it's time to hear it, because it's all well and good having the power of a car, but you also want it to sound pretty good. So let's start this thing up and hear what it has to offer. We will get some pulls shortly of the in-cabin and also the in-person driving to hear what this thing sounds like, but for now, enjoy these sound clips. By the way, I absolutely love the way the B58 revs up. I think it's got a really, really good tone to the way it climbs the RPM gauges. So to me, that sounds pretty damn good. And yes, I've coded no burbles on this car because I don't like the overrun noises and stuff like that. I much prefer just a plain and clean exhaust tone. Now hear the air intake, because this thing costs a lot of money and I think it's worth every penny. And it wouldn't be one of my videos if we didn't get a tiny bit of anti-lag, so now let's hear it. Press the button in 3, 2, 1. it does sound absolutely incredible. We've heard the car, we've also seen what power it can make. So now we've got to talk about why is the engine so good? Let's go over a few points about how this engine is just a work of art out of the factory. And the first thing we can start off with, you can't actually see it, but this engine is a closed deck design. What this means is that the cylinder walls are a lot stronger than the previous engines like the N55 and N54. They were open deck, whereas this is a closed deck. You can basically push a lot more PSI and a lot more boost into this engine because it can withhold that a lot more. Now, I've never owned an M car, but I do know that the S55 in the F series, M4, M3s, etc. come with a charge cooling system, and so does the B58, and this is another reason why it can produce power so efficiently. So unlike the M235i that I had, there's no massive intercooler at the front that you need to upgrade to run different stages on the car. Because this car is charge cooled, it runs a completely different cooling system to be able to cool the charged air from the turbo, and this out of the factory is a really powerful design, and it's really easy to up the horsepower because this design is so capable. And again, one of the things that makes all this power is the turbo. The turbo was engineered even further and upgraded way more than the previous engines like the N54 and N55. It flows way more air for the size of it. It's also built better and it's stronger. And of course, when you combine all that boost that the turbo is making, you've also got to be able to provide the fuel for it as well. And that's another thing that the B58 comes from out of factory, is a much better fueling system. More bar, more PSI, and just an overall better fueling system than the previous generations. Not to mention all of the oil cooling designs that were upgraded in the B58s as well. They've got a much stronger system that provides better oil pressure, and you don't have to worry about oil starvation like on the N55 when it comes to tracking the car. And again, not something that you guys can see, but the B58 comes with quite a few forged internal parts from factory. I'm not going to list exactly which ones are because there's a lot of misconception about if the crankshaft is, if the con rods are, pistons, etc. So I'll leave that for a more knowledgeable person in the comment section. However, there are some very cool forged factory internals that come from the factory. I have seen people pushing upwards of 700 horsepower on the stock engine, which is absolutely incredible considering you are adding upwards of 400 horsepower more than the stock engine it comes with from factory. Now, if you were to ask me, I would say that BMW definitely built this engine knowing that people would tune it, and they knew from the factory that this car would produce crazy horsepower with just a downpipe and tune. Now, I know a few of my viewers are going to be quite upset the fact I got rid of the M235i for a Polo GTI. However, we're not talking about that in today's video. We're talking about the B58. The reason was I couldn't justify having two F22s on the drive. I'd done everything I could with the N55. It was one of the best sounding cars I've ever owned, period. And this thing doesn't add up to it in my eyes. However, it was time for a change. I did everything I wanted to do on that car, and now I've got a more track focused and a completely different build to what I obtained on the M235i. Now let me know in the comment section, have you tuned your car with MHD or boot mod? And if so, what horsepower is your B58 pushing? I'd love to hear it, and also I want to hear any facts that you guys want to put in the comment section that I don't know about. Because with the M235i, I basically knew everything I possibly could about that engine and also the 2 Series chassis. However, when it comes to the B58s, I'm still pretty new to the platform and I haven't really had this car for too long to be able to actually work out what's what. I can tell you guys one thing though, and that is it is stupidly fast, and I cannot wait for some action days for track and everything like that to open up because this thing is going to be so much fun. We've looked at this car for long enough, we've seen how good this engine is, but now it's time to actually hop in the car and see what this thing drives like and see if all the hype of downpipe and tune is actually all worth it. So starting off with the startup, I have the startup raw. I was trying to wait for you guys to hear it then, disabled, but the startup on this car pretty much still feels like the M235i. And also, before we get going, I'm super interested to see what exhaust systems you guys are running on your B58s. I'd love to know because I currently have a custom one, and obviously you guys know what that is, but I'd love to hear what you guys are running. But I think now, let's put the window down a bit so we can hear some of these intake noises and also the exhaust tones, because this thing, it does sound special and it's got some serious grunt to it, as you guys can hear already. It just wants to just go. It is an absolute animal. And as you guys know with me, oil temps are already all warm before we do any sort of pull. Always like the car to warm up before driving it hard. And another thing that I do like the sound of that the M235i or the N55 doesn't do is the B58 brap, as you guys can hear now. That thing, it just sounds like death, and you have to build up quite a bit of boost to get to it, but I think it's worth every single bit of boost you build up because it sounds incredible. It It's so good, man. Now, as a lot of you will know, I used to own a fully customed exhaust M235i, and that thing was stupidly loud. I'll put a clip on screen now for you guys to hear. And I had that car from about 19 years of age till I was about 20. Now I'm 21 and I'm driving this B58, and the exhaust is 10 times better. And the reason is because of that sports cat. I haven't gone full ASBO or stupid mode with getting it ridiculously loud. This car on the motorway, there is zero drone. It drives like a stock exhaust in Eco Pro, and if you're just being quite gentle on the throttle. As you can hear now, I'm going up quite a steep hill with a good gradient on it, and we're doing 2k RPM, and if you listen to the noise, it's really not that bad. You wouldn't believe that this car has very, very little restrictions. And I think that's just something you get when you either mature, which I think I have done, and you kind of go for something which isn't as loud and annoying, because I must admit, on the motorway or the highway in that M235i, my ears were starting to hurt. And driving it the other day to sell it brought back some memories that weren't the best, because that thing definitely makes your ears hurt. Now, while we are on the subject of talking about the N55, I still think that is one of the best sounding BMW inline sixes that is turboed that they have ever made. However, there are other reasons to why I switched to an M240i. It's not just regarding the sound, and I will admit that I don't think the B58 does sound as good, and I think a lot of you guys in the comment section can agree with me. But this car is definitely no slouch, and I must admit, the exhaust tone on it isn't too bad. I do quite like it, and it pulls like there's no tomorrow. It just wants to just go for days. So there we have it, guys. Is the B58 a cheat code for horsepower, or is it all just hype that TikTok boys and Instagram reel people make up? Is it worth everything that's said about it? Well, I'm still getting used to mine in my M240i, so I'm going to leave that to you guys in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts. I'm still N55 biased, and I will be for a very long time, because I had that car for longer. I love the M235i to bits, and I think the N55 sounds incredible. But let me know in the comment section. If you guys enjoyed the video, you can like it. You can also subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming videos. And apart from that, thank you guys so much for watching. I will catch you in the next video. Bye for now.